everybody. I'm a little bit nervous about this. I've stood in front of many rooms and delivered training to hundreds of people over the years, but recording it, a little bit nervous. So bear with me, I might stuff it up and make mistakes. Just proving that I'm real. So today I wanted to have a quick chat with you about the difference between an imperfect relationship and a toxic relationship. This is a theme that I see come up all the time in counselling rooms. You know, people often say that they wish they had realised sooner, that they wish that they had, cut their losses, I guess, sooner and left a relationship once they've realised, that it's toxic. But sometimes they've invested years and years, and I'm talking sometimes, 10, 15, 20 years in that relationship. And once they see that it's toxic, they wish that they had realised that all of those red flags that they had seen earlier, what they actually were. The thing is, we tend to make excuses, especially when a relationship is new and we're, madly in love and we've got all of that lovely endorphins and wonderful feelings floating around. And so we make excuses for the things that we see. So even though we do see the red flags, we don't see them for what they are. And it's only when we look back that we can acknowledge, right, yep, that behaviour was there all along. Sometimes, of course, really toxic people will actually hide some of those behaviours as well. So they can behave quite differently for, sometimes up to several years even. And I hear that quite frequently too. It all changed when the children came along, or it all changed when we got married, or when she fell pregnant, or... and that's a really important thing to note, that when we're talking about, people with toxic behaviours, it can be the man or the woman, the male or the female, and we see it equally in both. It's not confined to just one gender. So some of the things that you should look out for that tell you it's a toxic relationship rather than just an imperfect relationship, because let's face it, we're all imperfect, so we're all going to have imperfect relationships, and that's quite normal, obviously. So how do you tell that what you're seeing isn't just somebody who's imperfect, but rather someone who's toxic? So some of the things that you might see sort of fits of jealousy that seem a little bit out of the ordinary, a bit more than you would expect. Checking your phone, checking where you are, calling you at work, calling you on the way home from work on the pretense of, pick up the milk, or, I just needed to make sure you're safe, those kinds of things. A lot of the time, those behaviours will actually be masked by concern for you. So, I'm just worried about you. I just wanted to know that you were safe. That kind of thing excuses, if you like, their behaviour. There'll be emotional manipulation, and that I was worried about you is one of the ways that they might do that. It can be, in large or small ways. One of the big things that you might see early on too is love bombing, and that's a phrase that we use when somebody is like, just being really over the top with their time, their affection, and they just put you on a pedestal and think that you're perfect. They compare you to previous partners or girlfriends, boyfriends, husbands, whatever, and you're always more favourable. Oh, they were this, they were that, you're so wonderful, they were crazy, you're so even-tempered, so easy to get along with, so organised. Basically any skill or talent that you have, they will talk it up as though it's the most amazing thing. You'll probably feel quite good about it. You're going to feel, oh my gosh, this person really sees me and understands me and, sees me for who I am. Unfortunately, oftentimes that's, they do see you, but they're using that knowledge. And it's more about how you view yourself than how they view you. And they feed that back to you to make you feel good. If you see disrespect, that's a really good indicator that you're in a toxic relationship. So a lack of respect, and that can be it can manifest in a number of different ways. One of the things that you might see is that they try to control you. If they're controlling you, they don't respect you. It's that simple. Because you think about it, would you try to control a work colleague or somebody that you respect, a business person that you admire or respect? You wouldn't try to control them. You don't control people that you respect. So that's always a really good indicator. And again, it can be masked by, concern. Oh, well, I just think that it would be better if we did it this way. It would be better for you. You'd be happier. That kind of thing is used quite a lot. Often they will assume a lot more of your time and energy and space in your life than, would be reasonable. They don't want you to have a life of your own. So things like going out with work colleagues or even mixing with family or friends, everything has to be a couple thing. You can't go away for a weekend with the girls. It's got to be couples. And, maybe they're partners, but they certainly don't want to, have you out of their sights doing the things that you normally do. They want to assume, central focus of your life. They do not want to be, outside of that inner circle where they're front and center in your life. They might give you other clues by saying things like, you're too good for me, or I don't know what love is. If someone says that to you, believe them. Believe them. It's a really, really good sign that they're quite toxic. They don't know what love is. They're actually being quite honest with you. They don't know what love is. When someone says that to you, believe them. If somebody says to you, you're too good for me, believe them. 9 times out of 10, they're telling you the truth, and you need to believe that the first time. A couple of other things, what you'll see intensity in the relationship instead of intimacy. Now, intimacy takes years to build, and it means it only happens when you get to know people well. So it takes a long while to actually develop really deep intimacy. People who are not capable of that will create intensity, and that intensity is it's often like it's an up and down, like being on a roller coaster. That's how I would describe it. Fights and then make up, love bombing, kissing, sex, and everything's good again. But that intensity causes what we call a trauma bond, and it makes it even harder to leave that person in the future. So watch for that intensity rather than intimacy. They can't do intimacy, so they fake it by creating intensity. There's fear, obligation, and guilt used to emotionally manipulate you. And sex will be used to shame you as well. So, either you never want to have sex, or, you don't enjoy sex, or, I want it all the time, and you never want it. So whether it be having too much or having too little, the sex is used to manipulate and to shame you either way. Oftentimes they want you to put your needs aside. You'll feel uncomfortable in this relationship and you won't quite know why. And it'll be because you're constantly trying to meet that person's needs, but it's not reciprocal. It's never your turn. And one of the really good ways that you might be able to tell that this is happening is whenever there's a time of conflict, they have a way of making it about them. So even if you've gone to them and you've complained about something that they're doing, and there's been this conflict and you've raised it because it's hurt you, or you're angry, cross about it, somehow they twist it and it becomes about them, and you're dealing with their feelings first rather than you who brought the stuff to the table. So there's a non-reciprocity to it. It's always about them. Conflict turning personal and disrespectful, that's another really big indicator. So, conflict is normal in any relationship. A healthy relationship needs conflict. The problem with a toxic relationship is that it turns personal, and so they get insulting and they get nasty, they get patronizing, and that conflict is not dealt with well. It becomes disrespectful. So that's something to watch out for. One of the really big indicators is, if you're feeling uncertain or confused about the relationship, there's probably a good chance that you're in something that's not quite healthy, not quite toxic. The other question I get asked all the time is, can these people change their ways? Can you take a toxic relationship and turn it into something that's healthy and deeply connected and loving? Short answer to that is no. No, you can't. And that's bad news, and it's not something a lot of people want to hear. But the reality is, it's usually a toxic person creating a toxic relationship, and they very, very rarely even acknowledge that they've got a problem, let alone go and do the work that they need to do in order to change that. So they're all of the toxic behaviours that we would see in a toxic relationship. When it comes to an imperfect relationship, everybody can lose their temper from time to time. It's how they deal with it after that that's important. Do they give a genuine and real apology? A lot of people say, I apologise. That's not an apology. Or I'm sorry, but, or I'm sorry if you feel that way. Those are not genuine apologies. That's a topic for another time, but we'll talk about what a real apology looks like in a future Facebook Live. So, the other thing that we would see is, people seeking connection. So in an imperfect relationship, you'll have conflict, but you turn towards each other afterwards and you try to reconnect. You're committed to reconnecting after the conflict. There's no sulking, there's no stonewalling, there's no disrespect. You fight clean and you fight fair and you do it with respect. So anyway, I'm going to finish up there because I do want to just keep these quite short, but I am going to do a Facebook Live once a week. And if you've got anything that you'd like me to talk about or cover, please just pop it into the comments, or you can drop me a private message if you prefer to do that, and have it all, anonymous. So do let me know, and I hope that you tune in again next week. It's great chatting. Bye.